The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Hi, Dr. Rudy Cashman. Welcome to the Cashman Mind, Body, Spirit Show. Today is a very interesting subject. I myself wish I'd watched a show like this in my younger days, because I ended up having 5 children, and to teach them about the dangers of alcohol and drugs and marijuana, those things. I didn't have that knowledge, so I give you that privilege. But what I provide for you to do is information for myself. You may say, oh, he's awfully opinionated, but at age 39, for this being my 39th birthday, for the 46th time, I've gathered a bunch of knowledge and lived through the lives of my children and the grandchildren. So I've learned a lot from that. Plus, I've read many books on the subject of children and addictions and alcohol and cigarettes. Today's main subject will be marijuana, but it is related to cigarettes and alcohol and CBD oil, and these things are all interrelated. I can only give you so much information in 1 hour, so I want you to do some reading of things that, or look at internet sites, websites, for example, which I'll provide for you, because you have to have knowledge if you want to avoid and raise a drug-free child. We're harming our children, and part of it is that we as parents did not give them the proper information, and maybe we didn't have the proper habits of the mother and father, or the mother while you're pregnant. And an interesting thing is there's something now called epigenetics. And while the infant is in the uterus, the genetic component, the DNA is only, or genetic code is only written about 10-15%, 85% of the genetic code, in other words, the DNA, the future of the child, that has not been written. So what mother and father did, what they drank, what they ate, how they relaxed, and then eventually, especially the mother, while the child is in the infant, we are writing the genetic code of the infant. So what they are eating, what they are drinking, what they're doing for exercise and relaxation, all which secretes neurotransmitters and hormones and writes the genetic code of the infant in there. So a child can be born addicted. Yes. Neonatal abstinence syndrome, a child can have to go through withdrawal. Can you imagine that, doing that to your child? As happens, 10% of kids go through this. And they have to be in the hospital sometimes 6-8 weeks versus going home the next day, and it affects their brain. You have increased rates of anomalies in their body. A lot of diseases that occur is because the genetic code was written incorrectly because of the poor habits of the parents, and then eventually the mother or even their grandparents. What they do is reflected in the infant. They can be born without a leg, they can be demented, they can have increased rates of cancer, all because of what the parents were doing. So I'd like you to listen and learn things I didn't totally learn, but I went through the experiences, and I'm reading more about it, for example. So we can harm our children by us consuming too much alcohol, smoking cigarettes, using marijuana. These all affects the infant. But let's go through the history of marijuana, for example, a little bit. It goes back, frankly, hundreds, thousands of years. They have found evidence of that. The Indians, for example, in South America, used it for a day or two for relaxation. It was sort of incidental. It was not an industry, for example. The fiber, the marijuana plant, sativa plant, the Inca plant, have very strong fiber in them. And for years, and still probably today, but for years, it was used as a cloth. A lot of the sails of hundreds of years ago were made from the fiber of marijuana trees. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they use different parts of the trees, for example. Now Indiana passed a state law that we can use CBD oil, for example. That's oil largely from the Inca plant. It's from a sativa plant. That's a tall, thin plant, can be up to 100 feet tall. It has CBD oil in it. It's made largely from the flower. Indiana passed a state law that it can be sold in proper dispensaries, for example. And now they're doing it, in candies and all sorts of things that you can buy it. And we all think it causes no harm, but to really learn a lot more about it, you can go to YouTube, Rudy Cashman, CBD oil, and you can listen to over an hour on nothing but CBD oil because you need some information. I didn't know it either. I was seeing patients at a pharmacy for free after being a retired neurosurgeon, and they started selling CBD oil, so I looked up the science of it, and I found out that CBD oil turns off the P450 enzyme in the liver in about 70% of the people, and that's where you detoxify other medications that you're taking. For example, there is a workout person working at a place like the Y or Species, one of those places, who was working out 5 or 6 people, and she was selling them CBD oil, and she did not believe me, and so she checked the blood of one of her elderly patients who was on 6 or 7 medications. Come to find out, her blood never clotted. It totally eliminated the ability to clot blood. That's one of the side. Remember, I said it can turn off this P450 enzyme. Our state legislature passed the law, but never told the people it had some risk associated with it. They knew it. The legislative people knew that. They just didn't tell you. How did I know that? Because with the head of one of the parties down in Annapolis, I took him to lunch. And I asked him about it, whether he passed the law, whether he knew it had any side effects. He says, I don't remember. What do you think? Then I asked him if he'd received some lobby money for passing a law, and he says, gee whiz, I don't remember. What do you think? Do you think I was told a little bit of a fib here? A big fib, a fib that could kill people, okay? So I'm afraid that CBD oil could be the road to marijuana. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about marijuana. I just looked up the science, and you can make up your own mind how you feel about it. Today we're going to especially concentrate on children, for example. And what I found out that CBD, CBD oil, marijuana, can affect the development of your brain, especially in your child, till age 25 or so. Yes, it can. It can take a smart child and make them into an average child into a retarded child. That has been scientifically proven. So it can be harmful. So if a child is smoking marijuana regularly, for example, it can cause real brain damage. And being a parent, would you want your child to have a damaged brain, not to achieve what he could have achieved? It causes other things too, like the munchies. You want a pot belly, then smoke marijuana, and you'll get a pot belly. I think most of us wouldn't want that. So let's go more into this, okay? So marijuana in history has been used for hundreds of years, and then CBD oil, and then as marijuana. What I'm afraid of is that we are on the path to marijuana, not just in this state, but maybe there'll be a federal law that'll legalize it everywhere. It could be coming down the line. So I think you need to pay attention so you know how to vote. Okay? Some of this information I'm going to refer to was published in by the National Institute of Drug Abuse in the New England Journal of Medicine in June of 2014. So it's been known for a long time. And they talk about short-term use and long-term use. And what are they saying? Okay, that short-term use, okay, can cause some impaired short-term memory problems. Okay, that it can impair motor coordination. So you could be smoking here and there and driving a car, but you're not as coordinated, or you're playing a sport, or you can take a fall and break a leg or kill yourself or whatever. Climbing a ladder could be a problem, okay? So there's some driving skills decrease, increase trouble using the fingers in the feet, alter judgment. You're going to make a decision with something dangerous or not, a financial decision or whatever. Another one is increased problems with sexual behavior. They have found, and through studies, and it has been proven, that if you're smoking marijuana, as opposed to you're even a child, probably not married, and you guard yourself against abnormal sexual behavior, and now you're smoking marijuana, and we all know that it has increased rates of pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases. There's one of the universities around here, I won't name them, where they studied the girls and found that, of course, there's the boys that are involved with this too, but the girls end up with the problems that 50% of them had some sexual disease. 50%, one of the colleges around here, yeah. So, of course, you'll catch it, spread it, maybe become infertile, whatever, okay? Also, marijuana can have psychiatric effects, and we all know of some mass shootings you hear now and then, where they went into a facility, like a school or a place of work, and injured and killed 10 or 12 people. That you read it in the newspaper. I guess in the last month or so in this nation, we've had 59 mass shootings. In all of them, there was no, it wasn't marijuana every time, it was alcohol, different drugs, heroin, for example, but marijuana was the most common drug that was found in the blood of these mass shooters in about 70% of the time. But other drugs were aboard also. But it alters your judgment. And in some, and this is not a common one, but some become schizophrenia. That's where they're totally out of reality, and most of them never recover. This may be in your genes, they're just schizophrenic. Maybe it's in your family history, but it never manifests itself. But you start smoking marijuana on a regular basis, and this schizophrenia comes out, and you may destroy your family. There's a mother that was written about in Australia who killed her 8 children. Yeah, and she had smoked marijuana since age 7. And you might say, well, maybe she had schizophrenia then, but there was no evidence of it. And yeah, a famous case that's in this book that I have up here for you. It describes the case very well. So long-term heavy use, we were talking about intermittent use. Long-term heavy use can lead to addiction. 90% of the adults. If you're not addicted by the early 20s, odds are becoming addicted go down. But 25 to 50% of daily users become addicted. Wow. 25 to 50%. So the kids who are smoking regularly as teenagers are much more likely to become addicted to the medication. So it alters brain development till around age 25 or so, some beyond. So that's important to know. And it affects their cognition, the ability to think logically, memory. And generally, kids who smoke marijuana have a poor educational outcome. Remember, they can go from above average to being mentally slow. A lot of them quit school. A lot of them don't fulfill the ambition, the thing that they were meant to do. The brain they were born with does not develop properly. They don't have jobs. They get involved with unusual behavior, criminal activity, unusual sexual behaviors, have increased rates of pregnancy, increased rates of poor health. Remember the munchies? You want a pot belly, smoke pot. Wonder why you call it that. Okay. The IQs generally go down about 5 or 10%. They've shown that. So there's decreased life satisfaction. Okay. It also incidentally affects the lungs much more so than cigarettes. And the reason being, cigarettes, a lot of times we're smoking with filters. Now, about marijuana, cigarettes don't have filters, so deposits a lot more carbon. Incidentally, cigarettes now, they have added sugar to them because that opens the alveoli up where our breath goes, makes it acidic, and much more likely to addict you to cigarettes. There's sugar in cigarettes. Industry figured that out. Go to Gary Taub's book, read the chapter on sugar in cigarettes, or go to YouTube, Rudy Cashman, and I speak about it in my shows that I do here, which go to YouTube generally in a few weeks. Okay, so it increases bronchitis, coughing, and I already mentioned increased rates of psychiatric problems. So we are increasing our science of marijuana and CBD, our knowledge. What many of us don't realize, and I didn't until I started reading this, that they have the chemical that's in marijuana, and there's some in CBD oil too, is THC. And that is the psychiatric aspect of the many chemicals, up to over 100 in the marijuana plant. But this is the main psychiatric component. But what they're doing is industry is increasing the THC in them so that people are much more likely to become addicted. What they sold 2 or 3 years ago was totally different than what they're selling now. That includes CBD oil or marijuana, which you may buy in a state where it's legal, or where it's smuggled into the state, for example, or buy legally CBD oil in the state of Indiana. Okay, I think we are following the path to legalization. You got to watch those guys in Congress, both parties, more so Republicans, but Democrats too. Because a leader I spoke about who helped vote for the CBD oil bill, who said, "Oh, I didn't know I was paid any money. I didn't know it had side effects," was a Democrat. So all parties are involved here. It's about the money. It's about the money. Let's face it. So we have to ask your congressman how he's going to vote if you want to help fight this thing. Okay. Bill Bennett. Okay, a famous government official, a drug czar under George W. Bush, is a man of authority, and his book, Going to Pot, is an excellent book, incidentally, to read. It's scientific, he is sincere, and you'll get a much better idea how to deal with your family, because you need to educate your family. And it's now medical marijuana, where they use it as medication, say, for pain. And it probably does work a little bit with pain. We have in our body what's called the cannabinoid system, which nature put in there. It's a modulating system, involves all the organs and tissues. If some abnormal chemicals are in your body, neurotransmitters, what the cannabinoid system does kind of slow things down. It tempers things. We all have it. Animals have it. Birds have it. But it can be abused. Marijuana, for example, will turn the cannabinoid system off. So what you take in isn't modulated anymore. And so it has a lot more effects on your body. But what Bill Bennett is saying, that marijuana is not safe. He studied it. He has nothing to gain or lose, except he's trying to pass on his knowledge, and that's his job. Not many government officials are not that trustable, but he was. So to Bill Bennett, okay? And he's saying it's not medicinal. They try to promote it. This is used as a gateway to marijuana legalization. They'll say, "Oh, we need it for pain. We need it for nausea, vomiting, for the cancer patients." Those are the two things. It may have a little bit of value. They have found, but in Colorado, where they wanted to legalize it and promote it, they first introduced medicinal marijuana, and you could CBD oil, for example, medicinal the marijuana plant itself. And what happened, they set up clinics all over the state, and what happened was a tremendous number of people came in and were used as medical marijuana. They all claimed, "I hurt all over. I have pain." I'm sure a few did, but many did not, and they got hold of the plant, and they were able to spread the use all over the state, and these clinics just exploded. In the state, turns out there were more medical marijuana shops than Starbucks, more medical marijuana shops than Walgreens. I mean, it exploded. And obviously, it was being abused. The patient were claiming pain just so they could buy this. They even got the price low so it could buy the medical marijuana. And then they became addicts and may have even gone to other states to buy higher quantities because if you use it for a while, the receptors where they work, the receptors die out, and you need higher doses, higher doses, higher doses. And this is the process of addiction. It's from habituation to eventually to gotta have it, gotta have it, gotta have it. And I've seen some of these patients because I treat pain. I was a neurosurgeon before I did wellness things I do now. So I wrote 3 books on pain there on Amazon. You can go on there on pain because the middle of this, when things were worse a few years ago, I wrote pain books. I really learned a lot about it. And some of those are on, you go to YouTube, Rudy Cashman Pain, probably 30, 40 one-hour TV shows come up to gather information. I'm trying to get information to you and make up your own mind. But I'm trying to save your children, okay? Information that was not available when I was growing up as a dad, for example. Other countries get ahead of us a little bit, like in Sweden, they opened the laws, anybody could use marijuana. They regretted it. So what to do now? Outlaw again? Well, they didn't want to put them in prison. Their prisons were overloaded. That cost them money every day. And they switched to treatment was their main focus, and information. Treatment and information. You can look at their website, Marijuana Sweden, things will pop up. And there are a number of U.S. states, that 23 states approve medical marijuana in the U.S., and they are regretting it, okay? But it can be addictive, and it has increased rates of addiction in teenagers. That's the trouble. It's not safe. And Bill Bennett says it's introducing marijuana or CBD oil is kind of like inviting another man to date your wife, okay? Things may happen, and so it does with marijuana, okay? It is not safer than alcohol. You might say it's safer than alcohol. No, it is not, okay? And President Obama used it, and we had a federal law outlawing it everywhere, okay? He decided not to enforce the law because he thought it was fairly friendly, and I voted for President Obama, but I'm just saying, I think that was a mistake because we're going to be a whole nation eventually smoking marijuana, I'm afraid, and that will have intellectual impairment, and we will not be the great achievers in the world as I see us potentially having. A nation of marijuana, I don't think would be a good thing. That's my opinion, okay? And part of the problem is that marijuana lost a stigma. I would never smoke a marijuana. Well, that stigma is going away. You know, there are people who pay little attention. If my kids want to smoke it, it's up to them. Makes them feel good. It makes me feel good. And then they smoke regular cigarettes and have a drink. And before you know it, hardly anybody's working. And injuries are piling up. Can't get insurance. Lost my job. Have a major accident. Those things happen when you use drugs a lot. So it's not just marijuana. It's alcohol. It's cigarettes. Other drugs. They may lead to heroin. May lead to schizophrenia. May lead to abnormal children. May lead to children born with congenital anomalies, increased rates of cancer, all related to addiction. Then we add sugar, the booger, and the hooker, which I talk about a lot, which also is addictive. Sugar may be more addictive than cocaine. So I like to teach you a lot about addiction, to eat a healthy life. If you watch my other YouTube shows, you'll learn plenty about how to stay healthy. Okay, I teach now Rudy's Ketone 16-8, a good way to eat properly, be healthy, look great, have a sound mind. That might be the final pathway. Okay, so I think what's happening is the risks are being ignored. Even Senator Rand Paul spoke and thought it was fairly benign. But I wonder if he's changing his mind. He may not, okay? You can Google marijuana and gather some information, but these books I'm going to show you, there's probably enough information. About the information you get, let me list some of them. May hurt the teenage brain. We know that already. Heavy use may change brain structure. They can now, through functional MRI scans, they can now give you a pill to take, and if it has that substance in it, like whatever, sugar, marijuana, it lights up different sites of the brain. So now we know what effects the thing you're taking has on the brain. That's called functional MRIs. So we're scientific. We know what we're talking about, okay? Marijuana still is a big deal. It's not a minor deal. It's on the path to trouble, okay? It has effects on the lungs. We're talking about that. And that marijuana is a safe drug is inaccurate. It's false, okay? They've shown now and scientifically proven that it's worse for the lungs than cigarettes. Yes, because no filters, for example, okay? You have increased rates of heart attack risk with marijuana. Some people, including teenagers, just grab their chest and die. It's not dime a dozen or common, but it does happen. And how would you like to lose a child? Okay? And the brain damage, if you smoke cigarettes, some brain damage has occurred, but usually over a few months or a few years, and even effects on the lungs, a lot of the times, that's reversible. But marijuana, the brain changes that it causes, are not reversible. Okay? If you took brilliance to average, and you smoke marijuana, you'll be average all your life. Your brilliance will not come back, okay? So smoking pot, marijuana, can cause lifetime effects, okay? In smokers, there are stereotypes. They slow you down. You don't think as quick. You don't move as quick. You're not good at sports anymore if you were good at one time. And people know that. We know the family member that's smoking pot. He's not ambitious. He don't want anybody. He's not good at sports. He's got a pot belly. He's unhealthy. He's more likely to drink, more likely to smoke cigarettes, more likely to have friends that are like them. Pot smokers hang around with pot smokers, okay? So their dreams go up in smoke. And who wants that, okay? Being 39, 40, 46 time, I still have dreams. Yes, you can have dreams at my age to have a purpose in life. I still do. I tap dance. I'm a great pickleball player. I'm a tennis player. When I walk in nature like I did today, I sang to the birds. The red-winged blackbirds followed me, about 3 or 4 of them. They followed me. They wanted to tweet back. Maybe they were being territorial, but maybe they liked me. I don't know. I have bird feeders in back of my house, which I sit in the morning where I read. I got 2 ducks that look me in the eye every morning. Ducks, you ever heard of that? But as soon as there's a little bit of light in the morning, I get up early, around 5 o'clock. I got 2 ducks looking at me. Why is that? Because I connected with the eyes with them. Maybe it's because at least some food. But they don't seem to be so obsessed with food as the squirrels that come around. So nature, connect to nature. A lot of joy there, certain states, Oregon, Washington, D.C., Colorado, Arizona, have all passed marijuana laws where it's legal to smoke. And they have noticed increased criminality, increased car accidents. There's also seen that people are coming from South America and they're growing marijuana in the forest where you can't find them. And they thought they'd make a lot of money on taxes by selling, and they're not really gaining that much because the price is dropping, which, of course, is harmful. More people buy it, and it's being illegally sold because of illegal growers, which are either importing it or growing it in the States. It's very complex. Colorado is losing money. Just look at their website. They're not making money. They claim to promote it in your state. They claim to make all kind of tax money. You'll pay less taxes because the marijuana people are buying it. We're taxing that. But they're not finding out the profit really isn't there. And the increased hospitalizations and accidents and the workforce that Mrs. Days at work, when you add it all up, in reality, they're not making much money. And so the stigmatization of marijuana, that is not a good thing, is going away. And this is being promoted, unfortunately, by the government, of course, the industry, by people who use it. But if you knew the rate of marijuana smoking going on in your schools, you'd be frightened. You would be frightened. It may be around 18-20% kids are smoking pot. Some more schools than others. Okay. For example, look in the newspaper. They listed the schools as the ones who had the highest infection rates from the virus. You'd be surprised. You would be surprised. Mm-hmm. A lot of them were private schools. A lot of them were religious schools. Mm-hmm. Where they're not, I think, putting in the mask mandate and probably not checking as to who's smoking it much. It was listed, I saw in the Journal Gazette. So find out what's going on in your school. You want to know what's going on in your school. Is there a principal there who just ignores the addiction problem, pays no attention, you can do what you want, I'm just interested in education? Or is it a principal who up front sets a policy on addiction? I mean, one policy could be if you get caught with anything, you're kicked out of the school. I know somebody that happened to. And you say it may be good for the school, but is it good for the kid? No, it wasn't good for this kid, okay? If I were to tell you a story what all happened to this kid, you'd start crying, okay? So we need to maybe put knowledge out there and through the educational system, educate the children about sugar, marijuana, heroin, so they really know, make the punishment understandable. Don't just tell the kid to go away because that kid may die, be disabled, affect a lot of the other kids. I mean, I don't have the answer, but I think you need to know how your school reacts to it and attend the meeting, okay? About 3.9% of the high school seniors, 40% of high school seniors do think that marijuana may be harmful. Well, maybe. That's not good enough. They have to know that it is harmful, okay? Otherwise, harm in the lungs. The American Lung Association says marijuana has 33 cancer-causing chemicals. Marijuana. Mm-hmm. It's not just one chemical. There are many other chemicals in there, even CBD oil. Has a little bit of THC, but it has 10 other marijuana products in there that have not been tested yet, so we don't really know, okay? But they don't have filters, okay? So marijuana smoke is 50 to 70% more carcinogenic than regular cigarettes. Well, of course, cigarettes kill a lot of people from lung cancer, from stiff lungs, vascular disease, a horrible habit, maybe 15% of people still have it. Some economic groups more than others because they're so stressed. Why do people smoke marijuana? Why do they smoke a cigarette? Why do they use alcohol? Because it stimulates the circuitry of our brain, which has now been demonstrated very well with these functional MRI scans, okay? Dopamine is released. That is released very quickly. It acts for a second or two, and then it doesn't work. So we need to light up again, okay? Alcohol lasts a little bit longer. And then the serotonin is elevated. It makes us feel good for a little bit longer. So why are kids smoking? Maybe because they're stressed. Maybe they're depressed. Maybe they're paranoid. Maybe bad things are occurring in the family. Maybe their friends are treating them badly. So we use cigarettes, alcohol, marijuana to make us feel better. There's a reason. What we got to do is to teach them how to feel better without those chemicals. I tell you, a great habit to have in a family is that everybody together sits together and has some meals together. I don't care if it's breakfast or dinner, just one meal a day. Everybody gathers so we talk to each other, ask questions, give a little bit of a talk, okay? You, as a parent, should not just be the total friend to your child. You can be friends after they get married, okay? But before they're married, you are their teacher. You are their teacher. You have to teach them. They don't know. I didn't even know as an adult a lot of these things that drugs do, okay? You are their teacher, and to have them sitting around a dinner table and going around the table, maybe each one could say, hey, how's your day? You got any questions? Go around. Then mom and dad. If you did that on a regular basis, you'd cut your problems way in half. Another thing I think is important is that the family attend church. That's how a child can develop morally. I think it has value. My mother took me to a church, and my father was too busy working 20 hours a day in his deli in New York City, but she took me to the Trinity Lutheran Church on Lexington and 86th Street, and I really thank her for that because it did establish a thought process in me about what's right and wrong. So I think religion is important no matter what your beliefs are. Even if you don't believe in God, okay? Take them to a church, and no matter what the religion is, unless they promote violence, I'd be careful about them, so that the child can develop a conscience. You are not totally born with a conscience. I mean, I even wonder about that statement because it appears to me that animals appear to have been born with a conscience. Most animals don't eat their young. They do not. They don't harm them. Okay, I see them around my bird feeder today. You won't believe this. If you know me, you would believe it. I have a woodchuck living under my house 15 years now. I didn't know they lived that long. Yeah, I saw him 15 years ago with his paws up here looking at the sun and enjoying a sunny day. And that I decided, since I walk in nature every day, I would help him. So I gave him some food, but now he's got children again. And his little cats, when I come out to fill the bird feeders, they come out, they smile at me. They wouldn't kill each other, okay? I see the ducks come out, okay? I see the geese come out, they're youngsters. On the geese, you get close to one of their kids, and they'll stand straight up. Although most of them just put their eye on me now because they know me. I feed them. But any other animal, I saw one of the geese the other day. When one of the animals grazing came up to eat the corn that I put out there, the goose starts flapping its wings and goes like that, guarding the family. I never seen it flap its wings to scare somebody away. But the animals, they don't harm each other. Very rarely. Maybe there are some that do, but it is rare. But we humans don't seem to care that much. We need to educate our children. We need to not harm our children. That concerned me so much over the years that I even wrote a book myself. And it's not, I suggest you maybe have a look at it because it has the information you need to raise a child and things to avoid harming and killing our children. I mean, you say, what a title that is, but it tells a story of things that we do. You can get this on Amazon. Things you need to know about. You need to know about sugar, for example. If you feeding your child sugar all the time, they're going to be overweight. They're going to get diabetes. They're going to get 30 diseases. They may be diabetic as a teenagers. They may have a heart attack when they're 30 or 40. Again, avoid harming your children. And we're harming and hurting our children with fast food. Food that is stripped of all its nutrients, that's taken off. So they're eating nothing but sugar and become addicted. Now, maybe at a higher rate, frankly, than marijuana or alcohol or cigarettes. So that's important. So we addict them with fast food, with alcohol. If you're all drinking in the house all the time, what do you think your kid's going to do? Okay? Where do you store the alcohol, for example? Suppose you smoke marijuana, well, your kid's going to smoke marijuana. He may steal it from you, and he gets a habit going. Okay? And I need for you to learn a little bit about milk, too. Read Joe Keon's book, Whitewash is the name of it. I read that book. I have a real problem with milk. And the government is, promoting it in the CHIP program and other programs that they have. But again, mother's milk is what you want to give your child. But read about regular milk. You notice all kind of plant milks are selling now, which are much better. No animal drinks the milk of another animal. They would die. If you're a veterinarian, you know that already, because all milks, every species, have different proteins, different fats, different sugars. Yes, we humans tolerate a little bit, but we lose the enzyme to digest milk. Asians can't digest it at all, so they don't drink milk at all. I want you to learn about it. Mother's milk is the best. They'll breastfeed for 1-2 years. Good idea. That develops the breast brain because it has the best fats in it. So I want you to learn a little bit about not harming children. And this book summarizes it. It's a bit brutal, but you will know. And at the end, I included a code of behavior, 20 prescriptions that lead to a good life. That's the reason I think this book would be excellent read for you to look at the whole health issue, to look at the behavioral issue, and to avoid having a child that is addicted to cigarettes, alcohol, marijuana, maybe all three, maybe the internet too. I have a YouTube show on that too, which you can punch in. Remember, the receptors that we have in our brain, the cannabinoid system, modulate things that we take in. But if you take in marijuana, those receptors are destroyed, and we don't modulate our feel-good system anymore, and we need more and more and more because we don't feel good anymore, okay? Most drug addicts, they're down here. They're down here. They don't feel good. I'm not sure I even blame them. I blame us for not teaching them about this system. and not teaching our children how to feel good through exercise and dancing and music. Give them the Mozart effect, that they sing and dance to music to feel good, okay? And the children's brain, especially age 3 or 5, has more of a Mozart effect. They learn a lot quicker, so to teach your child very young is a good idea, because they can learn a lot quicker how to play a musical instrument, how to feel good, how to exercise better at a very young age, which a lot of people do not know. A lot of people do not know that, okay? And the THC, like in the CBD oil, used to be around 12.3%, but now it's up to 40%. So what do you think this is going to lead to eventually? Actually smoking the marijuana itself instead of just the oil, okay? And so they have now noticed in Colorado and Denver increased rates of admission to the hospitals because of legalized marijuana in the state. Indiana's being surrounded by it, and I think most recently it was approved in New Jersey, for example. So smokers are, remember I mentioned, have a decreased IQ, dropping out of school, and so why focus on teenagers so much? This whole show is about teenagers, because 90% of the adults who have the effects started as a teenager. That's why. Remember brain development we spoke about? So legalization would have great effect because kids become adults if they're still alive, okay? So the negative consequences are huge, and it affects the heart. Remember I said the heart attacks and the unannounced heart attacks at a young age, especially the young. Yeah, a young person aged 16, 17 may grab his chest and die from a heart problem related to marijuana. It's happened. It's happened. And California approved medical marijuana in 1996, but see where they're at now. Now, you can buy marijuana through the state, but it is localized certain areas because certain counties have not allowed it. Mm-hmm. But it will get less and less and kind of creep. And so remember what I said about CBD oil being a path, okay? So they will advertise that medical marijuana affects many illnesses. I even have a book at home that thick mentions all the illnesses and the scientific studies. You could read that whole book, and it maybe has a slight effect on pain, which is up to the interpretation of the users. If they're addicted and they want to smoke, say, oh, my pain is a lot better, for a few minutes, and they want to eat another edible or smoke another cigarette. So, for nausea and vomiting of cancer patients, is it really affecting nausea or vomiting, or is it just, I don't blame, who would blame them for using it if you get cancer? But many times it's cancer that's curable. I know of a number of people who were cured of their cancer, but died of their narcotic addiction. Yep. I know plenty of them. And what a sad story. You're cured of your cancer, but you die of the narc the doctor handed you, or the marijuana you bought on the street. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's something to think about, to use something else if possible, and not just to feel so sorry for the cancer patient, because 50% of cancers are curable. You're going to be alive. But if you're a drug addict, you might say, what's the use of it? Okay, whatever. And in Arizona, they had a small number of people using medical marijuana, but when they said it was before they brought in medical marijuana, But then, as quickly it was legal to use medical marijuana, people went to the dispensary, said they had pain. Before you know it, they had 34,000 people using it on a regular basis. Hospitals were filling up, accidents were occurring. It left the state. Other people were coming to the state and buying it. It may be good for business, but it affected people in other states. So 1/3 of the children managed to get their marijuana because of a medical prescription their parents or friends had. So it does promote it. And in Colorado's experience, you just Google it to get more information. But a lot of them got it from their prescriptions, and the receptors died out, and then became addicts eventually. And children can go into, if they're regularly addicted, they can go into substance abuse programs. But 70% got it from another person's prescription. And in some racial groups are affected more than others because of stress in their lives, poverty, no job, for example, and higher rates of smoking. Although some racial groups, it's less common. They just don't use it much. I think I read that the colored population doesn't use it as much. Interesting. Okay. And in the medical marijuana stores started around January 1, 2014 in California. And they used to, about 6,000 people were using it through a prescription. But when it became more readily available, it was 30,000 very quickly. And 92% started as pain as the main complaint. Okay. 12th graders, they found out 22.6% of people in California were using marijuana. 10-year-old is around 10%. And 27% of young adults in Colorado. Accidents have increased, and in about 3,000 people, it was fatal. May die of alcohol because it's legal. You legalize marijuana, you're going to have more deaths. So I try to, in summary, I tried to educate you a little bit about addiction, about not harming your children. I think an important thing would be the family dinner while you're speaking to all the children. Actually, I used to do it and it stopped because I got too busy. That was a mistake. I think to have breakfast or dinner with everyone in the family sitting around, grandparents if they're available, they can come in from the next house or if possible to pass out information. So I'm about information. I'm not the last word here. I want you to read these books, look at the YouTube shows, pay attention to your school principal. What's he allowing in that school? What's the rate in your school of bad health habits, which can include the food they serve? Is there pop available? Is there addictive sugary drinks available? 20% of the kids smoking pot. If it is, that's a problem. You've got to go with the principal, the teacher, and your child and educate them. Maybe have them sign a family contract. Everybody in the family gets a contract. You sign this, you get X. You don't do any of these things, and you go to college, we'll pay half of it, we'll pay all of it. If you don't do these things, make a penalty. You can't drive the car or something, and to make them accountable. So, thank you for listening to this. I'll pass out more information as time goes on. You can find a lot of this on YouTube, Rudy Cashman, YouTube, other people who speak about it. So I know you love your children, okay? And you don't want to contribute to a disability or death or whatever, but you yourself should try to have good habits because they look at you every day. They love you. You love them. So thanks a lot. Thanks for watching this show, and hope you watch my other shows. If you see me, give me a hug, ask me a question. Look at YouTube, Facebook. I can be reached on there. And I do this because I care about you. I love you. Namaste. I hope to meet you soon. Bye-bye.